And we are back. Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Press Cincinnati Sports Fan. I am Jesse. So, on this episode, we're going to talk about the Crosstown Shootout for college basketball between the Cincinnati Bearcats men's basketball team and the Xavier Musketeers. So, this rivalry has been going on for the longest time. And I know some of you guys don't really watch college basketball like myself, but this is probably one of the most unique and underrated rivalries in college basketball. I know a lot of people do talk about it and they put it up there in their list of top rivalries in college basketball. But this rivalry it's very intense. It's very emotional, and the fans in this city really get into it. And for myself, being a Cincinnati Bearcats fan, I really hate losing to Xavier. I really do. Right now, Xavier has won the last 5 meetings. Yes, UC leads the overall record series in this rivalry 51-40, but it really doesn't matter right now because over the last, I'll say, 2 decades, Xavier has pretty much owned us. And that's the truth. And I hate saying that. UC hasn't won down the Cintas Center since 2001. Like, what are we doing? It's 2024. That was 23 years ago. And UC has won games here and there in this rivalry, but Xavier has also won games in Cincinnati, in Fifth Third Arena. It comes to a point where when Mick Cronin was here, when he was the head coach for Cincinnati, he didn't really cared about this rivalry. He said it was just another game on the schedule. I understand that because, you want to take it game by game. You don't want to put one specific game as, oh, this is the most important game of the season. I understand that. But for him, he didn't really care. Now we have Wes Miller, and when he was first introduced as the Bearcats men's head basketball coach, he said about this rivalry, it's very important. It means a lot to the fans. It means a lot for the community and the students and the campuses. Yeah, he was all in on it, and he really cares about it. Now, he's 0-3 so far in his career against Xavier. Hopefully that changes on Saturday when hopefully UC gets their first win against Xavier in 5 years. Good Lord, since 2019. This feels like 2019 feels like 10 years ago with COVID and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm excited for this game, but also I am very anxious because this is UC's time to beat Xavier because it's almost like Ohio State, Michigan. When Ohio State was pretty much owning Michigan for the last, I don't know, like 8 years. And then Michigan now has won 4 in a row, and they had no business winning 2 weeks ago in Columbus. I was very happy about the result, but they had no business winning there as 23.5-point underdogs and only having 6 wins, Ohio State being number 2. And people are saying that if Ohio State didn't beat Michigan 2 weeks ago, that they'll never beat Michigan. So it almost kind of feels with this game against Xavier on Saturday coming up. If UC doesn't beat Xavier this Saturday, then when they're going to ever beat Xavier, right? I've dealt with a lot of Xavier fans over the last several years, and just being a UC basketball fan for about, I'll say right now, 20 plus years. I've dealt with Xavier fans, and some of them are the worst. But there's only, I'll say, a couple that are actually reasonable, and I can actually talk basketball, and we can, take some jabs, but it's not personal. But the rest of the fan base, they're a little cuckoo. I mean, same with UC fans, same with all sport fan bases all around across the globe when it comes to college and professional. Okay, you can't really reason with them. But let's talk about the Cincinnati Bearcats men's basketball. Now, I haven't really dived into so far how the team has been doing this year. So let's talk about them. Right now, they're 7-1. They're ranked number 22. Like I told you guys when I did a preview of this basketball team before the season, that rankings don't really mean a lot to me, especially in college basketball, because it's pretty much like an up and down season. You never know. You'll be like undefeated, and then you'll lose 3 in a row, and then you'll come back and win 3 in a row. It really doesn't matter. Honestly, for me, if you're playing your best ball in like the middle of February heading into March with the conference tournaments and March Madness, that's where you want to be peaking. You don't want to be peaking in November, December, because then you head into January and February. If you're struggling during conference play, then that's going to be a little shaky. But so far, the team is 7-1. Like I said, their first game, they destroyed Arkansas Pine Bluff 109-54. Then they beat Morehead State 83-56. They beat Nichols 86-49. Their first road test of the season was at NKU. They won 76-60. And then at Georgia Tech, 81-58. Alabama State at home, 77-59. Then UC's first loss of the season came against a Villanova team that is not the previous Villanova teams when they had like Jay Wright and company, okay? Still, when I saw that game in the schedule with the Big 12 Big East battle, I knew that this game was going to be very challenging for UC. And on paper, it is before the Xavier game, I saw Villanova. I'm like, okay, this is their toughest challenge so far this season. Unfortunately, UC lost that game 68-60. It was a bad shooting night overall. And honestly, I was hopeful UC was going to win, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, this could be a loss. And then UC's final game before Xavier was a Sunday home win against Howard, 84-67. And then for Xavier comes into the game 8-2. They beat Texas Southern their first game 78-69. They beat IU Indy 94-80. They beat Jackson State 94-57. They beat Wake Forest 75-60. They beat Siena 80-55. They beat South Carolina 75-66. And they got crushed by Michigan 78-53. They barely beat SC State at home 71-68. They lost at TCU 76-72. And then their final game before the Crosstown Shootout on Saturday, they destroyed Morgan State 119-58. So this game, when it comes to the Crosstown Shootout, you can always say that, oh, this is the better team on paper. Rivalry games, it doesn't matter. You have to throw out the records. Obviously, UC right now on paper, when it comes to a roster and how it's being constructed, it is the better team in this basketball game, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, okay? And you look at the rivalry series, UC leads at 51-40. Like I said earlier, Xavier has won the last 5. Xavier has won the last 16 of the last 22 shootouts. That's crazy. Since 2002, UC has only won 6 games. 6! Xavier's won 16. Like, what are we doing? I hate that. I really do. Like I said, West Miller's 0-3. In the last 2 games of this rivalry game, I really thought UC had chances to win that game, okay? The one in 2022, it was at Cincinnati. And I really thought this was a time for UC to beat Xavier. I thought this was a time for West Miller to get his first win in this rivalry game. And UC came out in the first half of that basketball game flat as hell. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you coming out flat at home against your rival? Okay. They were down by, I believe, 17 points. And then in halftime, Kenyon Martin, UC great, came into the locker room, lit a fire on them. I mean, I wish Kenyon Martin was on the coaching staff. I mean, I hope he's going to be at the game tomorrow. Maybe he can lit a fire on them before the game. But the fact that you needed Kenyon Martin to say something to the team and about the rivalry and how it means a lot to him and the former players and et cetera, the fans and the city and the community. If you needed that to light a jolt on the team, yikes. But UC came out in the second half, a different basketball team. They got the lead down to, I believe, like 2 points. And then David DeJulius hit a clutch 3 that he was fouled on for a 4-point play. UC ties the game. And then Xavier goes down the court. They get a foul call. They hit 2 free throws. And that's the basketball game. So UC lost that game 80-77. And then last year's game, at the Cintas Center, like I said, UC has not won there since 2001. I really believe that was the time for UC to finally win a game over there, okay? Xavier came into that basketball game shaky. They lost a home game to Delaware. They haven't really been playing well at all to begin the season, and I'm thinking to myself, this is right here. This is it. This is UC's opportunity to finally get a win at Xavier. And you know what happened? Quincy Oliveri happened. This dude just went on Steph Curry mode. And that's why in this rivalry game, you really don't know what's going to happen. Okay, you really don't, because there's unknown players that take over games, especially for Xavier, especially in this run where Xavier has pretty much owned Cincinnati. They've had unknown players that go off and hit like just unbelievable like corner threes at a high mark. And I'm just thinking to myself, here we go again. So what's going to happen this year? I really hope that this is UC's time to stop that, because I swear if a Xavier player on Saturday goes off that I haven't heard of, or he's averaging like 3 points per game, because you know that shit's going to happen, I might lose it. I'm not even joking. I might lose it. Okay, so if you look at UC's players so far performing this year, so far we got like 8 games in the season. So Simas Lukosius leads the team in scoring, averaging 16.2 points per game. Dylan Mitchell, the transfer from Texas, averaging 11.9 points per game and 7.1 rebounds per game. Jizzle James, averaging 13.6 points per game and 5.1 assists per game. And then Dan Skillins played in the first game against Pine Bluff, and then his knee was sore after the game, and then he had a little minor knee procedure on it. Thankfully, it's not major, but he came back for the Howard game last Sunday. So I believe Dan is just slowly getting back in the mix of playing full contact basketball, and I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that he'll be playing in this basketball game coming up on Saturday. You don't expect him to be Dan like 100% yet, but just his presence on the basketball court is a big deal for sure. And then you have Aziz Bandango. Listen, I like Aziz. I think he's a good person. But sometimes this guy, when he catches the ball in the post and when he tries to post up a defender from the opposing team, and he'll just throw up the wildest hook shots ever and just flat out just misses the freaking basket. It just drives me insane. Aziz can play defense, okay? He's definitely a rim protector, but on the offensive side, I just don't want to see him posting up on anybody, really. If he gets a chance to get, and you see this basketball team loves to throw lobs, and I will say so far this year, their successful rate on lobs, it's actually not bad. I would have to say it's at 75%, 80%. Last year, good Lord, I would say it's under 50%, because sometimes Day Thomas or Jizzle James, they'll try to throw lobs to Aziz, and I'm like, guys, you realize Aziz Bandango's not really the most athletic big man out there, so quit throwing these lobs. But so far this year, knock on wood, UC is actually doing a good job when it comes to lob passes. Let's hope that continues throughout the season. And when it comes to the bench, you got Day Thomas. Like I said, he had a foot surgery that happened during the offseason, and then it kind of re-aggravated before the season. But now he's getting back into it. He's now getting back to being himself. He's a very important player on this team. So I think he'll definitely be a big impact on this basketball game on Saturday as well. Connor Hickman, the transfer out of Bradley, we all thought that he was going to be a big impact player when it comes to shooting the 3-ball well, his free throws. He hasn't really done so well. He's been a disappointment so far. I hope that he can better his play, because if West is going to continue to start Hickman and he's a liability on the court, then I think you need to make some changes. So I really hope Connor Hickman can play better, because I just don't. If he's just going to score 2 points and he's starting a lineup, then West, you need to do something, my guy. You really do. You can't just think, oh, he's gonna get better. He's gonna turn the corner. I want him to turn the corner. I believe he can, but so far 8 games in the season, I'm not really that high on Connor Hickman. Hell, it might change on Saturday. He might go off for 20 points. That's why this rivalry game, you never really know, honestly. And then you got Page, the transfer from USC. He'll play minutes when Bendangle's in the bench. And then Tyler Betsy, a freshman, coming into the basketball games so far this year, hitting threes. I think he has an injury. I believe it's to his knee that Wes Miller said this week. And I don't know his availability for Saturday, but Betsy has been a nice spark off the bench when it comes to hitting the three ball. For Xavier, Zach Fremantle is finally healthy. He hasn't played basketball in over 2 years. He had a foot injury, but he's back. The 6'9" forward is averaging 16.8 points per game, averaging 7.8 rebounds per game. They also have Ryan Conwell averaging 16.4 points per game, and then Davion McKnight averaging 11.1 points per game and 4.3 assists per game. And then a name that I think UC fans know, John Hudley. I know he's only averaging 3.7 points per game, but he's a transfer from Oklahoma. And obviously Oklahoma was in the Big 12. And last year, when Hudley played UC, I believe he scored like 12 points. And that's a guy that I can see in this basketball game coming up where you're thinking, oh, he's only averaging 3 points per game. But in this game on Saturday, hell, he might have a double-double or scoring 15 points and 10 rebounds. I really don't want that to happen at all. All right, so the keys to victory on Saturday for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Number one, you have to start fast. And what I mean by starting fast is that UC needs to get ahead. I'm not saying big, but you got to get ahead in this basketball game because you have the crowd on your side. Victor Arena is going to be rocking. UC is going to be wearing these black jerseys, the Cincy jerseys on Saturday. It's going to be crazy. It's a blackout. Fans are encouraged to wear black. It's going to be great, okay? The jerseys that UC is wearing, perfect. But you have to start fast in this basketball game. You have to get off to a lead, and you have to just impick your will right off the gate, okay? So that's what UC needs to do. Because in these games, they start off so slow, and then they try to climb their way back, but it's too little too late at that point in the second half. You can't do this in this basketball game. You are the better team on paper. Start fast and make Xavier play catch up, okay? Because this game's going to be a battle of there's going to be runs in basketball games, okay? And especially in this one, there's going to be runs. I just hope UC doesn't get to a point where they get on top in this basketball game, and then the offense sort of goes on a little drought, and then they allow Xavier to creep back in and say UC was up by 12 in this basketball game, and then towards halftime, Xavier cuts the lead to 6. You don't want that to happen because you're telling Xavier oh, okay, well, you're making Xavier believe that, okay, we're still in this basketball game. We haven't played well, but we are now got the lead down to under single digits. You got them where they want. Now, that's why you got to start fast and build on that lead as well. Because, like I said, in this game, and especially in the last 2 years, you cannot fall behind, especially UC, because that's going to be a mental thing. It's going to be a mental thing, and then the crowd's going to get unrestless because they have seen this movie before with UC. They fall behind by 15 points or 20 points, and then the second half they make a big rally, and then we get our hopes up, and then you lose by by 5 points. Can't happen in this game. Controlling emotions, like I said, rivalry game, very important for UC to win this game, but you need to control your emotions, most importantly. And then the Bearcats defense needs to be on point. Xavier, they can score the basketball game. I mean, it's a basketball game. They can score the ball this year. I think they're averaging almost 80 points per game. They've scored 94 points twice this year in the results of their victories. Bearcats defense needs to be in full display on Saturday. You got to be physical. You got to be the tougher team. You got to go for loose balls, block shots, you name it. You got to be the physical team. And then don't press. Don't press. I know there's a lot of pressure on Cincinnati to win this game, but when you start pressing, that's when you start playing bad basketball. And then the turnovers, and then you're taking bad shots. Your defensive assignments rotation is not on point. That's pressing. Obviously, you want to win, and the stakes of it is very high, but you want to be smart, most importantly. So I just hope UC doesn't press. And then your big players need to shine. And I'm talking about Seamus. I'm talking about Dylan Mitchell. I'm talking about Jizzle James. I'm giving Dan a pass because he's still coming back from the injury, but you never know. He might go off in this basketball game. He might be feeling himself, but the adrenaline as well. But you need your big players to show up. And I think not the big players, I think you just need everyone. And everyone needs to have just their A game in this basketball game. You need to have your A game every single game. But in this game, you need to. And the crowd's going to be a factor. The crowd's going to be a factor. Fifth Third Arena. One of the most unique, underrated environments in college basketball. It's going to be loud. And fans are going to be very uptight because they know that UC have lost 5 in a row. And this is the year for UC to finally break that monkey off their back and get the victory. It needs to happen. So the crowd is definitely going to make a difference. If you fall behind by like double digits and the crowd's quiet, Xavier's like, okay, we got them. So that's why starting fast and just playing good basketball overall is going to be key. And you're going to keep that crowd rowdy at Fifth Third Arena, and hopefully UC gets the victory. Unfortunately, this game is not going to be on ESPN or ESPN2. Usually, for the last several years, or I don't know, last 3 decades, UC and Xavier is always either on ESPN or ESPN2. But this year, the game is on ESPN Plus. People don't have ESPN Plus. That means you have to pay like, I don't know, $12 just to watch the Crosstown Shootout. Are you kidding me right now, ESPN? I checked the schedule for college basketball and the games that are being broadcast on Saturday around the 2 o'clock range. I'm like, these are games that fans don't want to watch that shit. Why can't you just, I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that. So I apologize to the people that don't have ESPN Plus and that they can't watch the UC and Xavier game. It's already sold out, so obviously you can't go to the game. But you can listen to the game on the radio, 700 WLW with Dan Hoare and Terry Nelson. But I do apologize. I apologize on behalf of how stupid and idiotic ESPN is. That's why I don't like ESPN. I will be watching the game. I did buy ESPN Plus because it's like, fuck, man, I can't miss this game. I'm not gonna listen to radio. I mean, I love Dan and Terry, but I want to watch the game live on TV. It's just stupid. So apologize to the fans that can't watch the game on TV because of how stupid ESPN is. So I'll be doing a recap of this basketball game next week. Hopefully it's a winning recap. I can't wait to talk more about Cincinnati Bearcats men's basketball as we go into the winter months. It should be a good game. It's going to be a good season. I'm not going to give my predictions for this game because I don't do that anymore. I've learned from the Bengals. I really do. So I hope UC wins. I really do, but you just never know. It's going to be a good basketball game. I can see this game being a last possession game, and that's going to get my blood pressure up. So I can't wait. All right, guys. Love you guys. Go Bearcats. And I will talk to you guys next week. Well, I'll talk to you guys after the Bengals and Titans game with the Instant Reaction podcast on Sunday. Love you guys. Peace. Have a great weekend. Peace.